Hello, learners. Hope you are keeping well. Today, we're going to look at measuring development. Now, in your past lesson, you would have done the concept of development, even through this presentation, if you watched it, or through your teachers in class. Okay, now we're going to look at measuring of that development. I just want to get my highlighter quickly and then we can get going. So today we're going to look at measuring of that development. Okay, I'm making some funny scribbles on it. Okay, right, so let's get going. Now, in any situation, it's important to know why it's important to do certain things or study certain things. It makes you more enthusiastic to learn. It gives more meaning to the learning of that section or the studying of that section. So, even of measuring development, let's look at why it's important to measure development. All right, so let's look at it here. We say the importance of measuring development. It can be of a country or a province or a region. It doesn't really matter. But the important thing of why. First, to determine the level of development. Where are we? All right. If we look at in terms of South Africa, are we well developed? Are we below? Are we up? Whatever. You understand? So we can look at that and then we can say, but how can we improve, etc. Okay, so very important on that. All right, then to determine the average, that is the important average quality of life of the citizens. Okay, where are we in terms of the average? You must remember, you'll never get everybody on the same level. Okay, there'll always be richer people and poorer people. Okay, so we look at the average quality of life. Okay, it must, in some cases, this may not be the best thing. Okay, because you could have very rich and very poor, but at least it gives us an idea. Okay, then we can identify when we look at measuring development, identify areas limiting development. All right, because now we look at why are certain areas, or look at the areas and say, but these areas, maybe it's health, maybe it's education, we don't know, whatever the situation is. All right, we now look at these things. Why do we look at them? We identify them, and then we look at possible strategies to handle the problem areas and improve development. Can you see? That is what we want to do. Okay, so that we can get more developed. It will improve the well-being of our population, of the country economically, just so many things. So we look at the problem and then we try and handle it. Like you can see this one, human resource development. Okay, in South Africa. Okay, a nation of work for a better life. We found human resource development as an important thing. Okay, in the sense that, whoa, if we make our people more skilled, there'll be more better quality jobs for them. Their life will improve. Okay, so we develop our resource. Okay, so that's one of them. Then we measure the development using development indicators. That's what we call them. In this session, we're going to work through all the development indicators, okay, that are necessary. Okay, so what is a development indicator then? It measures the level of development with regards to a country's, or it can be region or province, economic, the wealth of the country, all right, money, which is important, the social, the well-being of the people, etc., and institutional growth. The institutions, the health facilities, the education facilities, the administrative facilities, all this we look at because they all are related. You need money in order to improve people's quality of life. You need the institutions to provide the services. Okay, and then we compare levels of development. Oof, I'm putting this word twice. All right, I like that word. Okay, so we compare the levels of development. And it gives us an idea. Okay, that country is more economically developed. You understand? We are less economically, I'm not saying South Africa now, I'm just giving examples. All right, we are less economically developed. Okay, and we are in some cases compared to, in many cases compared to the Americas and the United Kingdom, we are lesser than them. You understand? How could we improve? Let's see what did they do. So we compare. All right. And of course, there's three types of indicators: economic, social, and environmental. We'll go into more detail on this, so don't worry, learners. As we go through this presentation, we will go through this in more detail. Some examples is gross domestic product, okay, which is an economic indicator. Human development index combines economic and social. All right. And of course, we will do this further in the presentation. It'll be explained. Just briefly looking at something here. All right. United Kingdom is a more economically developed country. Bangladesh is not. It's a less economically developed country. Look at the per capita income, the average income here, $35,000. Look here, $1,600. Look at the literacy rate, people being able to read, write, arithmetic, whatever, is 99% in the United Kingdom, Bangladesh 47%. We're going to go into more detail, and I may repeat some of this as we go through. Look at the infant mortality rate for United Kingdom. All right, that means how many children dying per thousand, or babies dying per thousand. It's 5 in United Kingdom, 58 per thousand in Bangladesh. Lack of health facilities. Eh? Uh, People per doctor, 2.2 per thousand. United Kingdom, good health service, zero point 0.2 per thousand in Bangladesh, much smaller. Newspapers, 332 per thousand, and in Bangladesh, 6 per thousand. Massive difference, eh? TV ownership, 1,100 per thousand, means they have some houses got two TVs, and in Bangladesh, 7 per thousand. Massive difference, eh? Life expectancy, how long you going to live? United Kingdom 79, Bangladesh 60. People employed in farming, United Kingdom 1.2% because they're all advanced in secondary, tertiary activities, etc., which we'll deal further with. All right. And then in Bangladesh, 45, almost half of the people are employed in the farming or the primary sector, etc. So can you just give you just a brief idea about the differences in development? And these are the indicators here that show us so much information that we can apply to actually create more development in our country. Okay, right. Now let's look at the first type of indicator, economic indicators. What does it look? It looks at the economic development of a country. Okay, the money, the wealth. Can you see? All right, there's all here, the coins. There it is. Yo. Okay, so we look at that. All right, the economic, the wealth. This is actually the common method of measuring development, the big one. Not that we don't use the other ones, but it's a common one, not the total thing. You'll find there are flaws, eh? Right. But that is the big one of determining development. Now we have various different indicators under economic. The first one, gross domestic product. Okay. Right. This measures the value of goods and services produced within the country's borders. Right. I'll explain that in more detail by citizens and non-citizens alike for a specific period, example a year. That's an economic. Now, what do? They look at within the country, not what's produced outside. Like you take South Africa, what's produced inside South Africa, the goods and the services offered. You understand? Whether it's education, whatever, what has happened in the country. Now, in the country, we may have people from other countries like Zimbabwe, Nigeria, etc. They also producing within the country. You understand? So all the production makes up the gross domestic. Domestic meaning in the country. All right? So that's the idea of gross domestic product. All right? Then gross national product. This measures the value of goods and services produced only produced by only a country, but produced by only by only countries' citizens, both domestically and abroad. Again, for a specific period, example a year. Now, when I say only by a country's citizens, okay, now all the people who are South Africans, okay, they gross national product takes into account them, okay, that South Africans. So South Africans may produce things in the country and outside the country. So we take all that and add it up to make the gross national product. Okay, it's important to look at both. It's important to look at the gross domestic product, which that's produced within the country by everyone, citizens, no non-citizens. But it's also important to look at the gross national product because it tells you how the South African citizens, you understand, are producing. Okay, right. Let's go on. And we there. Okay, the GDP and the GNP, that's the two. They use to indicate the size of a country's economy. All right, how big it is. I'll show you an example just now. How big an economy this country is, and not necessarily how developed it is. That's what we need to look at. I'm going into more detail just now. All right, and the main one used is the GDP, all right, to determine the size of the economy. Now, I'm going to move here a bit. I move my face. Now, let's take China. China is the second largest economy of the world after the United States. All right. Okay, so it has the second economy goes into trillions of dollars, lots of money in China. All right. Now let's take another concept. Sorry, learners, I'm keep moving my face. Let's take another concept. Per capita gross income. Per capita gross domestic income. Now, what is this? This takes is the country's economic output per person, right? How much they produce, etc., salaries, and is calculated by dividing the GDP of a country by its population. So the country, let's say South Africa, has got so many, the GDP is so many billion dollars. Okay, so we can say it is quite good, you understand, and then we take it and divide it by the number of people in the country to get an average, and it may show us a different thing. Just using an example, learners, uh, a household, all right, they earn $80,000 a month or 80,000 rand, okay, and they have 20 people in the family, okay, so each one gets on average 4,000 rand. Okay. And in a next household, they earn 40,000 rand. They earn less, but there's only four people in the family. And 40,000 divided by four gives you 10,000 compared to 2,000. All right. So The people who earns 40,000 with four in the family are more richer than the people that earn 30,000 or 80,000 with 20 people in the family. Okay, so that is makes a better indicator of looking at development. Like if you look at the top countries' GDP per capita, okay, China is not even in the top 10. You understand? These people maybe make less money in the country in terms of this, but they are tops because they have a smaller number of people and they divide that money by a smaller number of people. And what happens? There's more per person, all right, compared to China, which has over 1.45 billion people. Okay, so that is a better indicator. Okay. Another indicator is the economic indicator is the Gini coefficient, rather, not Gini. All right. And what does this do? It represents the income inequality or wealth. All right. Wealth inequality within a nation. Okay. It looks at, like, for instance, let's say the scores range from 0 to 1. All right. Zero shows full equality. That means all the people are more or less on the same level in terms of salaries. There's not a lot of, or there's not very rich people and extremely poor people. You understand? Or even the gender biasness is not there. Women, men, all working together. You understand? So that zero will be excellent. Of course, no country will have a zero. Okay, no country. All right, but some countries who are more developed will be more towards the zero. You understand? Some the countries that are less developed will be more towards the one, because zero shows full equality, one shows no equality. That shows there's between gender, between socioeconomic status, there's very rich, there's very poor people, all right, and it doesn't make a clear thing. So can you see this also tells us we can't say, whoa, we earn so many billions, but they say, whoa, 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 whoa. You understand? You maybe work an average income, but look at how many poor people you have. You have to improve their quality of life. Can you see how we geographers play an important part? You say, sorry, those people's lives quality have to improve. You understand? You can't have very rich and then very, very poor people. Okay, so we all want to go closer to the zero and away from the one. All right. Example, South Africa. We have very rich people and a lot of poor people. Not a good sign, eh? You understand? And our score ranges from 0.660 to 0.696. Not good. We are more towards the one instead of moving more towards the zero. Okay. And look at here, learners. Can you see the colors? 0.60, 0.65, all these colors, we also there. And when we head towards the green, where it's much lower, we look at the more developed countries like America, you understand, Europe, okay, all these places, Australia, they are much more because they are more developed, more economic developed countries. Okay, it's interesting to look at this. And we want to be there. We want to be higher up. We want ours closer to zero so that we can say all our people in the country are can be able to live a better quality life. So the Gini coefficient helps us with that. All right. Now, also looking at the economic activity sectors, that means the structure of the economy will help us, okay, will help us in terms of looking where our people are employed. Okay, it'll give us a good idea because from the top we learned that people involved in the primary activities, or more people involved in the primary activities, means there's a lot of manual labor in the farming, etc. Those are less economically developed countries. People that involved in manufacturing, and then obviously in the tertiary, they are more economically developed countries. Now, you may be wondering primary, secondary, tertiary. So it's important for us before we actually do this section, we need to then just go over what is primary, secondary, tertiary, etc. Okay, so it's important before I discuss this further. So the primary economics activities or sector is extracting or harvesting products from the earth. You understand? Such as basic foods, like these ladies are doing here. And they're happy because they're eating healthy, not like you guys with the burgers. I'm not saying burgers are bad. Okay, but I'm just teasing. All right. Can you see? They are farming there, extracting, they're planting. All right. They're planting crops. Okay. And harvesting them. These guys, strong guys, they mining. They extracting the raw materials, you understand, from the earth, which is used for manufacturing, etc. Some examples are agriculture, farming, that is farming, your mining, forestry, fishing, those are taking from the earth. That's your primary activity. Okay, let's go on. Then the secondary activity sector is the processing or manufacturing, transforming of raw materials into goods and products, or products and goods. Can you see? Iron ore can be made into iron and steel. Food manufacturing are some examples. Textile manufacturing, like these intelligent ladies here, busy making the clothes that you wear. Motor vehicle manufacturing. All right, can you see? They're just finishing off my car here, which I'm going to fetch tomorrow. I'm just teasing, but that's manufacturing of that using all the raw materials from the primary sector. All right. Then the tertiary economics activity sector. This is the provision of services to the consumers. It's based on what the people want. That's the consumer and the services provided. All right. It's a wide range here, learners. It's commerce, okay, administration, all the banks and whatever, transport, routes, that's the service, financial, sorry, this is government offices, and the financial is your banks, all right, real estate, selling of houses, businesses in general, personal services, education, health, social work. This is a tertiary thing, providing education. I hope you guys are intelligent like this guy. His hand is up all the time. Okay, I'm sure you are. You are geographers. This is public safety. All right, they offer services to improve public safety in Johannesburg. Can you see it? So all these things are linked. All right, and then of course your quaternary sector. This is getting, processing, and sharing of information. Remember, and these things are like informal information technology via your computers, etc. And then, of course, later on in geography, you're going to learn about geographic information systems, the GIS. Your dad uses those maps when he takes you somewhere, the GPS, etc. Okay, research. Can you see? This is big in the more economically developed countries. Okay, so these sectors now, and let's look at it. Just some examples. By looking at the number of people employed in different economic sectors, gives us an indication of the level of development. Let's take the United States, which is more economically developed than India. And let's check here, learners, from these figures. Uh, the primary is the blue, okay? That's the farming, etc. And look at India, 18%. United States, only 1% employed. Can you see what an indication it gives us for development? All right. And if you look at tertiary, India 53%, Okay, and the United States 79. More people are employed in the tertiary, which tells us they are more developed. So what we can get from this in terms of looking at developed, less economically developed country, more people employed in the primary sector. More economically developed country, more people employed in the tertiary sector. Okay, tertiary sector. All right. So we got another thing about development. Let us look at the social indicators. All right. What does this do now? We looked at the economic, the wealth, etc. It measures the well-being of people in terms of their social needs, such as access to adequate shelter, okay, services, education, healthcare, ability to take part fully in society, and all that it offers. So it's the social needs, whether it's health, whether it's shelter, the services offered to the people. You understand? Whether it's education, whatever, all these things deal with that. All right. Now, demographic indicators, okay, our population statistics. How many people born? How many people die? You understand? These are important things. How literate are the people? The literacy rate of the people. You understand? All those are demographic statistics. Now, what do these demographic statistics do? Okay, a social indicator, that means it's based on what the people and the quality of life is derived from readily available demographic indicators. So social indicators get the information from demographic, and then they tell us, okay, these are the conditions of the people's well-being, etc. Some examples will be population, age structure, how old will people be, mortality rates, death rates, ratios, all right, between male and female, children women ratios, okay, how many females, how many males, all these things take place. You understand? Look at this one here, of the population older than 14 years able to read and write. You can see 95 to 100% here learners, and you see it's all the developed countries. Can you see it? And the developing countries, like here, some places is around 20%, 20 to 40%. Can you see it? Less economically developed countries, their development is lower. Okay. Then some demographic indicators from which social indicators are derived. Okay. Some of them now. What can we do with these demographics? Okay. And we will use these demographics to actually help us determine the social indicators like birth rate. Can you see it? The number of babies born in a country per thousand, okay, during a year. Okay. You realize it is higher for less economically developed countries. There's more children being born, not much birth control. Okay. Death rate, the number of deaths per year per thousand in a country. It's higher again for the less economically developed countries. Okay, it's higher, all right, because they don't have the proper health facility or good, excellent health facilities like the developed countries. Okay, infant mortality rate, the number of newborns dying under the age of 1 year, and is divided by the live births. Okay, the live births, and of course multiplied by 8,000. Okay, right. But you just need to know in this the number of newborns dying under the age of 1. Okay, divided by the number of live births. Okay, so you work that out, the rate, all right, in terms of that. Now, it is higher for less economically developed countries. More babies die in less economically developed countries. Then life expectancy refers to the number of years a person can expect to live. Okay, in this case, it's lower for less economically developed countries. That means people in the lower economically developed countries, they die earlier compared to the more economically developed countries. Then, of course, population growth rate, the rate at which the number of individuals in a population increases, of course, in a given period of time. And this again is higher for less economically developed countries. So what happens here is uh, the less economically, the growth rate, the number in the population increases. Of course, various reasons, birth control, etc. Or it is much higher than the more economically developed countries or developed countries. Okay, so it's much higher there. All right, developed countries or more economically developed countries, they have smaller families so they can look after, they focus on all that. And sometimes in less economically developed countries, they want to have more children to work on the farms, etc. Okay, now let's look at the social indicators. Okay, uh, we have poverty. Look at what indicates the percentage of people living below the poverty level or on very small incomes. Okay, obviously, more economically, less poverty. Access to basic services, availability of services that like healthcare, clean water, sanitation. Okay, very important to look. Okay, access to healthcare. All right, how many doctors per they are for every patient, okay, or how many doctors they are for certain number of patients, okay, that in a less developed country, there's a large number of patients, small number of doctors, okay, risk of diseases, calculate the percentage of people with diseases such as AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis. And this is self explanatory again, learners, that people in the less developed, economically developed countries will have a higher risk of diseases. Access to education, how many people attend primary, secondary, and higher education. Obviously, in the less economically developed countries, you will find that they don't have so many attending higher education. Some people don't even go to schools compared to the developed countries like the United States, etc. Literacy rate, percentage of adults that can read and write. In developing countries or less economically developed countries, even now, you find adult centers where people are being taught to read and write. Remember, it's nothing to do with intelligence, learners. It's nothing to do with intelligence. It's all about the opportunities there. So they are very intelligent. Some people learn to speak quickly because the intelligence is high. It's just that opportunities were not there or facilities were not there for them. Okay. Then access to technology includes statistics like percentage of people with access to phones, your mobile phones, all right, television, internet, laptops, all these things. And you find a high percentage in the developed countries or more economically developed countries. They have a high percentage compared to less economically developed countries. We realized during illnesses like COVID, etc., online teaching was such an effective method, but it couldn't be implemented fully because many people don't have the facilities, let alone data and whatever. Okay, gender compares statistics such as literacy rate, employment between our genders. And remember, gender is just not uh, biologically male, what you're born as, and it's how you look in terms of that. All right, that's gender. Okay, opportunities given, and we find in developing countries, all right, or less developed countries, there is a greater difference. Females are not treated in the proper way, okay, in terms of the sexes, etc. They're not treated in a proper way compared to the males, and it's smaller difference in the more economically developed countries. I found this picture here, these cute little ones here, okay, in a less economically developed country. You understand? You can see the facilities, all right, the social indicators show they are not well off. Access to basic services, they food, shelter is all bad. And this is a more economic developed country. You can see the home, the food, everything is different. All right. And this is the difference that we face in terms of our quality of life. And social indicators will help us. Obviously, the powers above must do something about it. All right. And not use monies in a bad way. Okay. They must actually put it in the quality of life of the people. Okay. Social indicators. Then we look at this one here that calculates a human development index. The human development index is an index that measures the level of human development. Now it has three key dimensions. All right. It has looks at a long and healthy life, how long people live. People can live to 90, but their health of life may not be as good. You understand? So the quality of life was poor. They just managed to live to 90. So a long and healthy life. It looks as access to education, okay, which is necessary in order for economic growth, for everything. You understand? And a decent standard of living, which regards money, etc. Okay, you look at all those things, okay, that make the person there. So these are the key dimensions. There's also other things that the human development looks at. So one important thing about the human development, it looks at social and economic indicators. That is why I put this here. I know some resources talk about it just being a social indicator. It's social and economic, and therefore it is more dependable on determining the level of development. Because if you look just at economic, remember economic can be wrong. You understand? Because then it's you saying the country earns so much, but there's so a lot of poor people or very poor people, and then there's rich people. But if you look at economic in terms of wealth and the quality of life of people, then it makes it better for us, gives us a better understanding. Okay, we can now know better. Hey, it's not just the money we looked at, but the quality of life of the people. So if it doesn't tally, whoa, we got so much money earned by the GDP or whatever. You understand? But look at the quality of life of people. So there's something wrong here. You understand? So it measures both. All right. And this also ranges from 0 to 1. 0 is the worst quality of life. 1 is the perfect quality of life. We may never have 0 or we never have 1. But where do we want to go towards? We want to head towards 1, which showing a better quality of life. Now, there's some things on the Human Development Index. Can you see? It looks as health, which is social, life expectancy at birth, which is social, education, which is social, can lead to economic. You understand? Years at school, expected years at school. Can you see some things? And then look at your gross national income per capita. Divide the gross national income. That's your money, your economic. All right. And this will determine the living standards. As I said, yes, standard of living. Remember, money is very important, unfortunately. All right. You have to have money to improve your quality of life in this world at the moment. So can you see it has a economic and a social, and therefore it is more reliable as an indicator to tell us about development. Okay, these are the main things you need to know about this human development index. Then we've got environmental indicators, learners. Another important aspect, okay? Because if we damage our environment, we get our natural resources, our raw materials, our quality of life. We don't want to live with this found everywhere around us. We don't want that pollution. You understand? Eh? Because it's going to damage our quality of life, let alone damage our resources, etc. So environmental indicators are measures that tell us about what is happening to our environment. We measure the impact on our environment, whether it's we're improving or it's getting worse, it's damages. Example, average global surface temperature, which is global warming, and it's creating huge problems, for us, for our environments, all right, where the average temperatures are increasing over a period of time. It's getting hotter. Okay. And therefore it's damaging. It's damaging you to with all these different illnesses. We now have to worry about skin cancer and this and that if we go too much in the sun. Okay, so imagine the rest of the natural environment. Okay. Resource depletion. Our raw materials, all of them are not going to stay there for a long time. Many of them are non-renewable. And once we use them, it'll take far more time to recover, like coal, gold, diamonds. All right, it gets used up faster than it can uh, be produced in the earth. Okay, so we're going to use that up. Carbon dioxide concentrations, like air pollution, etc. This is it. It's damaging, it's causing global warming, it's damaging the environments. And in the future, we may not have proper development if it's damaged. So if we don't look after our environment, we will run out or damage our resources. This will negatively affect the quality of life of the people. And this is one of the things that we focus on for development. All right. So it's so important to look at environmental indicators. And they measure the amount of pollution in the air. All right, we're not going to go into details. You are not those scientists yet, but you got an idea. Okay. They assess the amount of pollution. They look at the natural. They look at the amount of resources in the earth. Is it getting far less, getting used up faster? Okay. They look at so many things in those areas. All right. Okay, so we covered quite a bit of the indicators, etc. Obviously, learners, any presentation without a little activity is not good. We need to apply ourselves. And you need to remember that, learners. Every time you study something, apply it. All right. Your teachers will have various resources available for you. Okay. Take it and apply it because that's what you're readying yourself for. If you don't apply it to activities, how are you going to prepare for the exams? All right. Here it says refer to the table. All right. And that is what you must do, learners, before you look at the questions. Look at what the information is found there. What is it telling you about? Okay, we look at this is GNP per capita. All right, this is an economic indicator. We look, whoa, Kuwait, all right, per capita is $18,086. This is lower. All right, and look at this one, Bangladesh. All right, Bangladesh, $145. You understand? That's much less than this. Already we're picking up a trend here. Can you see by analyzing the information you pick up, hey, this country must be more economically developed. Hey, Bangladesh must be less. This is birth rate. Kuwait 36 and Bangladesh is higher. Can you see how we're seeing the characteristics now in terms of development? Percentage living in urban areas, that is your towns, your cities, etc. 58% for Kuwait, 11% for Bangladesh. Means most of them live in the rural areas where the farms, etc. are. Lots of them will be involved in the primary activities. Okay, life expectancy, Kuwait 69, Bangladesh 47. Okay, far lower, learners, because they are less economically developed. Calorie intake is higher for Kuwait, 2,728. It's lower for Bangladesh, 2,113. And then percentage who are involved in agriculture, Kuwait 17, much lower. Bangladesh 71% of the people less economically. Can you see how I interpreted this? This is going to help me now answer the questions, learners. You must look at your resource before you answer. Okay, and then we find that as we go through, questions go from a little easier to more difficult. Now, let's look at the first question that we have here. Define the term development indicator. Now, learners, please, when you're defining, I will mention this in all my presentations. Make sure you define it properly. Okay, let's look at it. I've taken it straight from the presentation that I have and I put it here. Okay, development measures the level of development with regards to the country's economic, social, and institutional growth. All right, that is the, if it says measure of development, it doesn't give me anything. All right. You have to put a full definition. You don't have to phrase it exactly like this. You understand? You say it measures the country's wealth, the quality of life of the people, you understand, and the institutions, how it's growing. It's still fine because it covers the correct things. Okay? Just remember, you can change the words as long as the meaning is the same, but full definitions. Okay, I've cut these few to show you that it's directly from your notes. And this actually is sometimes very disappointing, learners, when we find it's in your notes and then you don't use it. Okay, these questions you should be getting total for. Right, let's look at the next one. Explain two importances of measuring development. Okay, or state two importances. All right, we've got it here. It's done short now because we're stating them. Okay. Right. Can you see? Same notes. Determines the level of development. It determines the average quality of life of all citizens. Any two. Identify areas limiting development. Okay. And helps us put in strategies to handle problems to improve development. It helps us in all those cases. So any two, because it just has to state it now. You don't have to go into a massive explanation. Any two will give you marks. Okay. Next question. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun. All right. Let's look at explain the difference between an economic and a social indicator. Be careful. All right. Let's go here. Right? When we answer these sort of questions, we say first, and we make sure we write economic indicator assesses the economic development of a country. We don't have to, if they said with examples, then we give examples, but they didn't ask us with examples. So we've got it here. You understand? It assesses the economic development, whereas I'm going to highlight this 100 times. A social indicator measures the well-being of people in terms of their social needs. Again, you can use different words. You understand? Uh, but you must put in whereas and you must say economic and social. Okay? Can you see that creates clarity with that? And sometimes when they ask you for difference, they can give you up to 4 marks. You can't lose it. And by forgetting things like the word whereas, you understand, you're not showing a difference, which can be a problem, learners. Make sure you do it. These are simple, simple questions. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at the next one. All right. Identify a economic and a social indicator from the table. All right, from the table. And this is another important thing, learners. We forget to read. We have selective reading. So we forget to read that it's from the table. We give any economic, you have to give it from the table. Like, of course, this would be economic, right? Because that tells us about the GNP, the money per capita income. All right, the GDP per capita, it's money. All right, birth rate will be social. All right, number of people living can include, you understand, the aspect of quality of life and looking a bit on the economic, but more the quality of life, etc., which is social. Life expectancy, okay, is social. Calorie intake is social. Percentage involved in agriculture is a direct economic factor. Okay, right. So that tells you there, okay, in terms of that. Now, I highlighted this one because it doesn't necessarily, you understand, only cover the social, although it's main, it also covers the economic situation of people. All right, that they are earning better, that they are there. So here's economic, social, economic, and this can fall into categories if you debate. Now, I put this in, I could have cut it out, I put it in to show you something where there's doubt. Go with the more definite ones when you're answering these type of questions. Like, GNP is definitely a economic indicator. Life expectancy is definitely a social indicator. So go with your definite ones. All right. Classify Kuwait and Bangladesh as either more economically developed or less economically developed. Economic developed country. We've already learned it when we're looking at Kuwait, more economically developed. Bangladesh, less economically developed. We already worked it out. And you say, give reasons. All you do here, learners, you say the GNP per capita for Kuwait is much higher at 18,086. All right. For Bangladesh, it's only $145 or whatever currency they give you. All right. Can you see it? We can take the big ones here. 17% only involved in agriculture in Kuwait, much lower. Bangladesh, 71% involved in agriculture. Can you see? That is giving the reasons. All right. Urban percentage, people in urban, Kuwait 58, and in Bangladesh only 11%, meaning that 89% are in the rural areas. That's all you, but you do that. Give reasons for your answer. All right. You don't just say 78%, 68. You say more people, all right, involved in the urban areas or live in the urban areas in Kuwait, and 58% and less in the Bangladesh, which is around 11%. All right, can you see that? It makes a huge difference, okay, between that, and that answers the questions here. Okay, giving reasons for your answers to that. All right, it's a comparison between more and less. All right, for Bangladesh, obviously, less. Learners, I've thrown in some thinking ones. Can you see that's you here? You thinking? Okay. Now, let's look at this. Some of these thinking questions. Why is per capita gross domestic product a more reliable indicator of development than gross domestic product? All right. Why is that a more reliable indicator? Now, when you looked at the both things, all right, we said gross domestic product is the goods and services, you understand, uh, sort of produced by citizens, you understand, uh, and non citizens within the country. Okay. Now, that's just the whole amount. South Africa produced this amount, like we use China also, produced that amount. So many billion. Whoa, fantastic. South Africa produced so many billion. But on the other hand, if we divide it by the number of people, the average may end off as maybe 10,000 rand per person. Whereas maybe another country made less money with less people. You understand? And if you divide it, you will find that they may end off with 20,000 per people. So the gross, per capita gross domestic product is more reliable than just looking at the overall amount worked. Okay, it's like uh, in your class, there are again. I'm saying this. I know I'm repeating myself. There are your class was given 50 or 100 sweets. Okay, and there's 40 in your class. 100 sweets is a lot, eh? All right, and there's 40 in your class. So each of you are going to get 2.5 sweets. And the other class, they received 80 sweets, and there's 10 of them in the class. You understand? And they're going to get 8 sweets each. Can you see? That's what I'm saying. Per capita, better than looking at the overall amount. That's how I would explain. Explain how informal sector impacts negatively on the gross domestic product as an indicator of development. I'm just putting some teasers here, learners. Okay, just putting some teasers for you to work through. Now, let's look at it. All right. Obviously, you need to know what's an informal sector, isn't it? And basically, an informal sector is this, right? Due to lack of employment, etc. Okay, we find people then open up informal businesses. Now, these people do not register their business with the government. They don't pay income tax. They pay tax in the shop to buy bread, but they don't pay income tax. So, this is the hidden economy. Government doesn't totally keep track of this because they are not registered. Okay, so this is informal sector. You find this common in the less developed, economically developed countries. Okay, so it's an interesting fact which could mess up. Now, if I looked at the gross domestic product, I could say it is for South Africa, let's say it's $400 billion for the year. Okay, and we're looking at it's not very good or whatever. Okay, and we say therefore we are at this level of development. Okay, but maybe through the informal sector where people sell. Okay, they sell their goods, etc. They are not registered, and they may be making another 100 billion there, which is not taken into account by the gross domestic product. It doesn't take it into account. You understand? Because we don't know. Okay, we may say the unemployment rate in the country is 30%, but many people are involved in the informal sector. You understand? They are earning money from there, they are working, all right, but we don't have a proper record of them because they are not actually registered workers. Okay, so sometimes the country is better off than what the gross domestic product shows. You understand that they say there's so many people unemployed, but many people are still able to get food because of the informal sector. So our answer to this is that the informal sector, the businesses are not registered, they don't pay income tax, therefore sometimes they are not included in the gross domestic product. And therefore that figure for the gross domestic product may not be the true indicator. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. They are not, the informal sector are not registered, they don't pay income tax, so therefore they may not be known by government, and therefore they're not added to the gross domestic product income earned. You understand? And therefore making it actually not a true reflection. Okay, because then maybe there's more a higher level of development which we don't realize. Okay, last one for today. Conserving our natural environment is important for development. Right, we know that already. Uh, Development. Okay, conserving the natural environment is important for development, and of course, I missed out some words here. Okay, uh, explain the role you could play in conserving the natural environment. Okay, they explain the role. Yeah, explain the role, eh? Don't forget, I apologize for that, learners. Explain the role you could play in conserving the natural environment. Now, you can make a change also. You know, recycling. Don't use all those packets, and each time you go to the shop, you buy another packet. All right. Use water sparingly. It's also keeping it. I don't mean don't shower for 2 years, eh? Please, you must shower. All right. Okay, but don't shower too long. Sing 10 songs and shower. Okay, switch off lights in your house where in the areas that are not being used. Can you see? Reduce using the car. Cycle to school or walk to school. You understand? All those things are important. Can you see? And all that you learned also in life sciences and various subjects, you can play your part in conserving the natural environment. Okay, so can you see we all can play a part in conserving our natural environment because without it, also, there's a problem. Okay, learners, I hope you enjoyed the lesson and you enjoyed some of these teasers down here. Okay, and I hope you're looking like this guy. I understand. You understand? Okay, so I'm sharp with it, and I know you geographers are brilliant. All right, so learners, till the next time, all the best. Goodbye.